The birth of a legend, Luanda Magere. You have heard of so many legends, but have you heard of that great legend from Kenya? Before we begin, kindly subscribe, like, comment, and share. He was named Luanda, meaning rock, and Magere, the one who cannot be felled. Even in infancy, his body was curiously weighty, as though he carried the weight of centuries in his limbs. The midwives whispered that his bones were not made of marrow and sinew, but of something far older, carved from the very cliffs where the spirits of warriors slept. With his mother gone during his birth and his father soon to fall in battle, the child was raised by his grandmother, Rapondi, a woman as fierce as she was wise. She sang to him the old songs of the Luo, songs of thunder and river gods, of fallen kings and living stars. Under her careful watch, Luanda learned not only how to fight, but how to listen. To the wind in the reeds, to the murmurs of ancestors in dreams, and to the quiet ache of a world that needed healing. As he grew, it became clear to all that Luanda Magere was not bound by the same laws as other men. His body, they discovered, could not be pierced. Knives broke against his skin, spears bent, arrows clattered harmlessly to the ground, and when his blood was sought in ritual, it would not come, for none could wound stone. But he was not arrogant. He bore his gift with quiet solemnity. He trained like any other warrior, sweated in the sun with his kin, laughed with the young, and listened with reverence to the old. Still, the people watched him differently, not with fear, but with reverence. He was a bridge between earth and spirit, a son of the soil who carried the sky in his bones. With the passing of Nyabera and the shadow of war claiming Abonyo Omolo, the infant Luanda was cradled not just in the arms of kin, but in the arms of destiny itself. The task of raising him fell to Rapondi, his grandmother, a matriarch whose soul was carved from the same stone that shaped the mountains. Her face bore the lines of many seasons, and her eyes held the depth of stories told by firelight under acacia trees. Rapondi was not merely a caregiver. She was a keeper of the old ways, a vessel of sacred memory. In her hands, Luanda was more than a child. He was a vessel being prepared, tempered like iron, shaped with care by a woman who saw in him the echo of things to come. She taught him to walk with bare feet so that he might feel the pulse of the earth. She whispered to him the names of the stars and the rivers, of the warriors who had come before, and the spirits who watched in silence from the realm unseen. "The world you see is only half the world," she told him once as they sat beneath the moon. "The rest lives in shadow, in dream, and in blood." In the quiet of morning, she taught him the rites, how to greet the ancestors with libations poured into the soil, how to speak to the wind, how to read the way flames danced in the hearth. He learned that strength without wisdom was dangerous, and that courage must walk beside humility if it was to serve the people. Luanda's body became strong, yes, but it was his spirit that grew mighty under Rapondi's watch. He learned to lead not with noise, but with presence. He learned that the greatest warriors protect, not dominate. And he carried these lessons like sacred armor, woven into the very stone of his skin. By the time he reached manhood, he had become something rare, not just a warrior forged in battle, but a man molded in love, memory, and reverence. The people began to see in him not just the son of Abonyo, but the living promise of the Luo, a guardian born of sorrow and shaped by wisdom. From a tender age, Luanda displayed powers that defied explanation, abilities that set him apart from ordinary mortals. He was impervious to harm, his body seemingly immune to the frailties of flesh and bone. Bruises were unknown to him. No matter the force of impact, his skin remained unblemished. Thorns, sharp and unforgiving, could not pierce his flesh, gliding harmlessly across his obsidian surface. It was said that when he fell, the earth itself would crack beneath his weight, a testament to the density and power contained within his frame. The truth became undeniable. Luanda Magere possessed a body of living stone. No spear could wound him, no arrow could penetrate his flesh. He was an impenetrable fortress, a warrior forged from the very essence of the earth. In a time when the skies often held more smoke than stars, when the air was thick with tension and the land trembled under the weight of tribal warfare, there arose a figure unlike any other, Luanda Magere, the stone-bodied guardian of the Luo people. Conflict was the rhythm of the age. The Luo, proud and resilient, stood their ground in the face of relentless incursions from the neighboring Nandi, a tribe of seasoned warriors renowned for their cunning and ferocity. These were no ordinary skirmishes. They were battles born of bloodlines and boundaries, of pride and vengeance, of survival itself. But even in those darkest hours, when hope flickered like a lone flame in the wind, Luanda Magere burned like a bonfire in the night. His very presence on the battlefield was a miracle, a man whose body bore no wounds, whose skin no blade could break. Warriors who stood beside him swore that arrows shattered against him like rain against rock, and that when he moved, the earth itself seemed to shudder beneath his feet. He did not lead from behind. No, Luanda stood always at the front, the tip of the spear, the first to charge and the last to retreat. When war drums beat and warriors raised their shields, it was Luanda who stepped forward, calm and unshaken, a mountain in motion. Against him, the mighty Nandi, who had humbled countless villages and left trails of ruin, found themselves powerless. Their finest warriors fell like grass before the scythe. He cut through their lines like thunder-splitting sky, scattering men and morale alike. Where Luanda stood, the Luo stood tall. To the enemy, he was a phantom of dread, a spirit in the shape of a man, immune to pain, untouched by time. To his people, he was salvation made flesh, a walking covenant between the ancestors and the living, reminding them that the gods had not forgotten the Luo. And so, with every victory, his legend grew. They whispered his name in awe. Children carved his likeness into wood. Elders invoked his spirit in times of trouble. Warriors prayed to him before lifting their spears. Luanda Magere was more than just a warrior. He was a promise. He was the roar in the silence, the shield in the storm, the living memory of a people who refused to be broken. Luanda Magere did not fight with recklessness or bloodlust. His was not the rage of a man thirsty for power, nor the fury of one seeking vengeance for its own sake. Instead, his blade sang with purpose, guided by a deeper force, one woven into the very core of who he was. Each swing of his spear, each deflected arrow was not merely a feat of might, but a sacred act, a ritual in motion. At the center of this purpose was a wound that never healed, the loss of his father, Abonyo Omolo. Abonyo had been a revered warrior, a lion of the Luo people, until the day he fell in a brutal clash with the Nandi. That battle carved a scar into Luanda's soul, long before he could understand the weight of war. As a boy, he would stare into the distance, where his father once vanished, the plains echoing with the ghost of that final battle cry. Grief matured into resolve, and resolve became the fire that lit Luanda's path to greatness. Each time he rode into battle, it was as if he summoned his father's spirit, carrying it with him like a shield. Every enemy he felled, every village he defended, was a solemn tribute to the man who had given his life so that others might live. He did not seek glory for himself. His victories were offerings to the ancestors, proof that their blood still pulsed with power and pride. And so the people of Kano did not merely see him as a warrior. They saw in Luanda a guardian spirit made flesh, a living echo of ancestral might. He was a beacon of hope, standing tall in times of fear and uncertainty. Mothers whispered his name into lullabies, hoping their sons would grow up strong like him. Elders invoked his strength in prayer. Children painted his face into the dust with sticks and seeds, pretending to be the rock-body hero who could not be harmed. Luanda Magere was not just a man, he was myth, he was memory. He was the embodiment of sacrifice, loyalty, and the unbreakable will to protect one's people. In every heart he touched, he stirred the belief that even in a world scarred by war and betrayal, there could still rise a protector, not invincible because of stone alone, but because of the love he carried like a second skin. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Follow Tales of Our Ancestors for part 2 of his story, and tell us which legend you want to hear next and from which country in the comment section.